Hey, hey everybody, what's going on? This is Al, host of Guys Talking Sports. Let me first off say I apologize for not having a show last week. A lot of personal things has been going on, and not having it at the Pacific Wednesday time that we usually have because of things that was going on as well. But I figured I'd put in a podcast and a live event for today since I have the time, short amount of time, to get Guys Talking Sports in. So I don't have any guests today. To be honest, this is really on the fly. So you're gonna have to bear with me as I get my bearings and get everything situated. But we're gonna get started with Guys Talking Sports. What we're going to cover today, we're going to talk a little bit more about the whole Ray Rice situation, of course. We're also going to talk a little bit of the NBA about the Kevin Love situation, also the quote-unquote beef that's going on down with Chandler Parsons and the Houston Rockets. Going to get right into it. So let's talk about the Ray Rice situation. For those that already are aware of, Ray Rice basically was caught in a domestic, quote-unquote domestic dispute with his fiancee, now wife. That's really not the story. The story happened a while ago, but the news that broke out was that the NFL decided to suspend Ray Rice for two NFL games. So he's suspended for 2 games, and there's a lot of heat coming from Roger Goodell about this situation because the simple fact is that for a quote unquote domestic abuse, he only got a 2-game suspension. I really believe that Roger Goodell really dropped the ball on this. If your talk about setting an example for the NFL players, and you wanted to do right and make an example of certain situations, I think Roger Goodell really should have just made it really simple, and I think he should have gotten more days suspension. You're basically talking about he's suspended players for drug abuse for maybe 4 games. I remember a player being suspended for taking fraternity drugs that was banned from the NFL, but he got suspended for 4 games. I forgot the person's name, but real quick, I really believe in getting back to this Ray Rice situation. Yes, a lot of people are claiming that you don't know what happened in the elevator, but that's really not the point about this. The point about it is this. For the NFL's perspective, you talk so much about knowing what's right and wrong and setting an example of being a premier football organization and a premier sports organization as a whole. And basically, when you see stuff like this happen and you don't act on it where the public is in agreement with, or feel as though that this was a little lack of, you tend to lose faith. Fans tend to lose faith in what you're trying to accomplish, and certain things like this makes it very hard for the public to get behind a organization, especially a person that runs the organization and really don't really have a clue, doesn't really know what the public is it's kind of hard for Roger Goodell to try and give them this sentence and not, know that he was going to get slack of this. I mean, a 2-game suspension is really outrageous at this particular point, because you are saying that basically, for the sake of the argument, is that a person that is taking performance enhancing drugs is a far more serious offense than a person that allegedly beats his wife. Or hits his wife. Like you said, like we said, that maybe whatever happened in the elevator, that's one thing. And I'm not really, Ray Rice. That's Ray Rice. I'm not going to get into much of what he's did or what he's done in the past. The focus point is so much on what Ray Rice done, but to me, the focal point should be on what Roger Goodell just did, as far as handing down the punishment for this player. And I really feel as though that he really dropped the ball and didn't do what was necessary for him to make it right for that, so that everybody's in agreement. And I think that's really what the problem is, especially in the NFL. Now with the NBA, it's different, and you're starting to see a change of that because Adam Silver is starting to do some things that are right in the public's eyes. Whether it was the Dollar Sterling case, he able to he nipped it in the bud. He presented his argument and said what was going to be to a point where the public was in agreement with. And you're starting to see public fans starting to be okay with what Adam Silver does. I mean, he's the type of person that is compassionate but is fair, and he does not take anything, he handles it with the iron fist, so to speak. And this is the beginning of, this is the beginning of the Adam Silver era. But with Roger Goodell, basically what he's doing is, it seems like he's catering more towards, the NFL itself and not really caring about the outside the NFL. His focus is on the NFL and what to do and what not to do in the NFL itself. And I think that's where the conflict lies in. Now, of course, he has his, he is still the president. He still has the full say in what to do and what not to do. But it just feels as though that he is just Roger Goodell is just focusing on the NFL itself. So yes, when you see players basically do things that they're not supposed to do in the NFL, you may see a harsher penalty. But when it's outside the NFL, then you may feel as though he may feel as though that penalty may not be as harsh, because to him it doesn't matter. His focus is strictly on the NFL. I'm not saying that I defend him for doing this, but I'm just trying to get an understanding of why he actually gave the 2-game suspension. When you think about it, if it was a 2-game if it was something where it happened inside the NFL scope, so to speak, of what of anything, if it was something that happened in the NFL scope, I think that you probably would have seen a harsher penalty. Being as though it happened outside of NFL's NFL combines, and the inside of it happened outside of NFL things, I think that's why he wasn't really going to give that harsh of a punishment. I mean, that's my only explanation at this particular point, because, I mean, who's to say that, what he did, I mean, that's the only explanation I could see at this particular point. Roger Goodell is pretty much setting an example for the players and the NFL as a whole. Now, it'll be interesting to see what he does with the owner with the DUI thing, the DWI thing that happened, see what he's going to do as far as punishment is concerned. But I would not be surprised if he doesn't do anything. I wouldn't be surprised if it would be just as equal as well. Not just because he's an owner of the NFL, but owner of an NFL team. But I think it is because it has nothing to do with the actual NFL. So I think that's why players that get the 4-game suspensions for for the drugs that they take, or the steroids, or what performance enhancing, the PEDs, for example. I think that's why he gives a harsher punishment to those people, because it happens inside the scope of the NFL. Now, like I said, I don't know how Roger Goodell is going to handle it, but that's the only explanation I could see him giving at this particular point, because everybody else believes that there shouldn't be no explanation of this. There's got to be an explanation of why he gave a 2-game suspension on Ray Rice. And like I said, I don't condone any domestic violence of any type. And I really thought that he was going to do right by saying, we're going to think outside the box. He should have been suspended more games, half a season maybe. Some people were calling. For whatever reason it may be, it just felt as though that you would have thought that it would have been a harsher penalty. But now everybody's should be criticizing Roger Goodell. The whole Ray Rice situation, we already know how everybody feels about that. But the whole focal point should be on Roger Goodell and the reason why he gave the suspension. I mean, I'm very curious to hear his reason for giving the 2-game suspension, if anything. But like I said, I believe that that's really what his reasoning is going to be. To be honest, I really don't see any other reasoning behind it, because if there is another reason behind it, it contradicts everything that he pretty much stands for. So, as far as that is concerned, and I understand. I heard the interview about about Harbaugh giving his support, and that's what a coach is going to do. He's going to give support for his players regardless, no matter what. I don't have any problem of that happening. I don't have any problem with people voicing their opinions if they truly believe that. I have no problem with that. I just feel as though that at this particular point, no one is really going to step out the box and say, hey, I don't care if he's my teammate, he's still wrong for doing what he's done. There's nobody really in the NFL that's going to do that, especially for teammates or players that you play with. That's a brotherhood. It's a common brotherhood, and I really believe that people is going to actually, they're going to stick up for their teammates, and I can understand that. People may not agree with it, but I can understand teammates sticking up for them. Now the question is what they're going to. The whole 2-game suspension, they're taking it as we need to move forward, and I believe that that's something that they end up really going to do. Side note, I also want to include this about the whole Tony Dungy situation with Michael Sam. I think people will really blowing that out of proportion. I know Tony Dungy has his beliefs, and I know how he feels about the this whole situation. And truth be told, I think everybody was thinking about it because of Michael Sam's preference of who he dates or who he wants to be with. But I don't think that's really the case. And I really believe as though that he was saying it from being a 7th round draft pick. The intangibles wasn't there for him to make a team. And I know everybody was supporting that, hopefully that he does make the team, but he wasn't a good enough player for anybody to say that he was going to or not make the team. So real quick, I really feel as though that the whole thing being a distraction wasn't the fact of, it wasn't really the reasoning behind Tony Dungy saying what he said. It was just a distraction because of the fact that a lot of teams may have realized that he wasn't really going to make the team, not because of his sexual preference, but more so because of his talents on the field. And eventually down the road, some team will probably take him. Who's to say that he may not play, in the CFL or wherever other league, but, it has to be to a point where people have to understand that there's a difference, a line in the sand, because if one person criticized something, and he wasn't criticizing his sexual preference, he was criticizing about his talents. And I think that's where we have to have that open mindset about. So real quick, I really didn't think about Tony Dungy's comments were all that bad. Now, getting back to the Ray Rice situation, I really believe that this is going to be more so the focus on Roger Goodell. Ray Rice, he already did what he already been judged at this particular point. Right now, at this particular point, it's just the actions of what Roger Goodell is going to do down the road. Yes, domestic violence is a serious offense, but like I said, Roger Goodell may not feel as though that's the same in the NFL. So, real quick, that's what I wanted to talk about. I would love to get your opinions, to be honest. What we're going to do eventually is open up Q&A. You can reach me if you have any questions about what I'm saying, if you're listening to this cast, or if you have any comments. We'll be posting everything up on my Twitter feed as well as now on Facebook, so you can check that out as well. You can hit me up with any comments. I will be glad to read them on live, and we'll just take it from there. Okay. Now, I'm going to get into the NBA real quick. As far as this Kevin Love situation, for him, at this particular point, I think Kevin Love just wants to get this over with. I really believe that at this particular point, he's not happy where he is, and to tell you, the Timberwolves is not doing any favors by just letting him sit and wait. I really hope that down the road that something comes to a conclusion. But it's everybody, owners should realize is that the last thing you want to do is have conflicts with superstars, especially the ones that did. Look at the Dwight Howard. In fact, that's where Kevin Love is at right now. Like, he wants to leave. There's no reason why you holding out is not benefiting not just you, but it's not benefiting the team as a whole to move forward. And then you have a disgruntled superstar that really doesn't want to play for you. Like, T-Wolves should just follow the whole thing that happened with Dwight Howard and the Orlando Magic, and it needs to move on. I really believe that at this particular point, the Cavs gives them the best choice as far as if you trade Love, the Cavs give you the best choice to get something good in return. To be honest, I really don't know why the Cavs is actually trying to get Love at this particular point, because there's that whole win now structure is never going to be good for the team down the road, and they're going to need a future superstar. They have one in Wiggins. Now, granted, I'll give you this. The reason why I could see them trading Wiggins for Love is the fact that they have Dion Waiters in as a backup superstar. And to be honest, Dion Waiters is not getting the love that he deserves. He's a superstar in the making. I mean, he's a good shooting guard. And even though that they brought Wiggins in, I mean, to be honest, that would make things right because Waiters feels as though that he should be a starting player, a starting shooting guard. And you have to realize is that you bring someone in like him, I mean, he has that potential to be there. So I could see the trade for Love for Wiggins and maybe a couple of round picks or whoever the case may be. The trade should be, I mean, it benefits both sides actually, because with the T-Wolves, yes, you're letting go of a disgruntled superstar to get a future superstar in the making. And what that does is that, and what makes it better, because you could get power forwards and could get equal amount of talent. I'm not saying that there's power forwards and a list of power forwards that's comparison to Kevin Love, but what I'm saying is that you have a future superstar in Andrew Wiggins. You could build up the people around Andrew Wiggins, and you can you have people in the making to make a good team. And even if you don't have it, even though you'll get first round draft picks down the road. So if anything, at first I would have to say, I was like, why would you trade Wiggins if you're Cleveland? But after thinking about it now, you have Waiters in the background. I would say that the Love for Wiggins trade should happen. I mean, at this particular point, it goes for both teams. It will work out for both teams because you get rid of a disgruntled player, but you're getting a future superstar in return for, if I'm the T-Wolves. For Cleveland, of course, you get Love. But at this particular point, that's where that should be. I mean, I don't understand why the T-Wolves haven't made that trade right now. Also, the whole thing with the Houston Rockets and Chandler Parsons situation is really getting more uglier than I thought it would be. Granted, I could understand Chandler Parsons' reasons for leaving the Houston Rockets and going to Dallas, and then I can completely understand it. I mean, at this particular point, if they didn't feel as though that you were the person that you thought you were, at this particular point, you could play with another team. And you could become, the whole thing with Dallas makes it better for us, an easier situation for him. Now, the hard-end comment saying that him and Dwight are the cornerstones of the team. I mean, I think that was a bad move for James Harden. And to be honest, I can't even consider. James Harden is a great offensive player. But we already know how the liability he is on defense. So at this particular point, yes, I see that you're being a superstar. Yes, you do have Dwight Howard. But at this particular point, you can't make those type of you can't say those type of things of you being the cornerstone of a team when you have other teammates there. And I completely understand that what you're trying to say and accomplish, but who's to say down the road that someone else doesn't come into the Rockets organization and says, yeah, I think that me and Dwight are a good team. We're the building pieces and leave you out. You putting yourself on a pedestal that people may not agree with you on. And what makes it interesting is that you have Patrick Beverly, you have all these other pieces around you that help make up. This is a team sport. It's not a two-man team. And this is really a team sport. You saying that it's just saying that, the only team that, everybody else is role players and you guys are the cornerstones of the team. It's what happens when you don't get the role players that you need to advance the team. Because, like I said before, when you say things like that, it sets a bad precedent. Not for your sake, not just for you, but for role play, the people that's on the team as well. I mean, if I'm Patrick Beverly, I would feel some kind of way, feel as though that I'm just nothing but a role player to you, and it's a difficult situation you're putting yourself into. And if I'm James Harden, I would make amends with all the rest of the teams. It's not just you and Dwight Howard. It's not. It's you and other. It's a 5-man team. You have 3 other people that's playing with you when you're on the court, besides you and Howard. So you gotta make amends with those people. This is not going to be something like you just got Trevor Ariza into the mix to compensate for Chandler Parsons. So now you consider him being a role player when he's something more than a role player. So I mean, that's something that James Harden is going to have to make amends, and hopefully he could do that with the rest of the team that's the rest of the teammates on the Houston Rockets team. I mean, the truth be told, the reason why you didn't advance in the playoffs wasn't because of the role players. It was because of his lack of defense. And that's something that he has to hold himself accountable for before he talks about other people and considers them being role players. So that's my take on that. I really believe that James Harden did himself a disservice to saying that, because down the road, people that may look at the Houston Rockets as a team to join may feel as though that may put them off some way. And it'll be difficult to find great role players to come to a team when you feel as though you consider them as nothing more than role players. So hopefully that he can make amends with that and figure out a way to maybe apologize to his teammates or make amends for that, because him saying that really sets a bad precedence of his character. More so, not saying that he's not a good player, but it sets the tone for his character and what he's trying to accomplish down the road and in the future. So I believe that's pretty much all I could talk. Pretty much all I have to say about it right now. I know I've been pretty much talking about the NBA a lot, but I'm also going to start doing 2-a-days. I'm going to talk about different teams down the road. So you're going to hear more about that. I'm going to talk about each team, their strengths and weaknesses, especially in the NFL, since the NFL training camps have started. So we're going to get started talking about the NFL shortly. But at this particular point, I want to say thank you for all those that have been listening. Like I said before, we're going to bring back Guys Talking Sports beginning this Wednesday coming up. At our usual time at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have any questions? You can hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle is IAMALQUARLES. Again, it's IamAlQuarls. You can also hit me up on Facebook as well with any questions. You can catch out my podcast on iTunes. It's on iTunes now, so check it out. And you can also catch me on Google Hangouts. This is where I do my forum and do my talking. You can catch me live on Google Hangouts as well. Again, this is Al Qualls, host of Guys Talking Sports. I have the rest of my panel back with me on Wednesdays, and you can check us out there on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Okay, this is Al Qualls signing off.